song called Alice's Restaurant. It's about Alice and the restaurant, but Alice's Restaurant's not the name of the restaurant, that's just the name of the song. That's why I call the song Alice's Restaurant. Now you're going to say, you called the song Alice's Restaurant? No, I didn't call the song Alice's Restaurant. It was actually Arlo Guthrie, son of Woody Guthrie, wrote this song back in 1967. It's a true story. Happened down in West Stockbridge, Massachusetts. We'll get into all that stuff later. Now it was sung in the first person, and that's the way he does it. And all the lyrics that I got here are all done in the first person, so I'm going to have to sing it in the first person, but I'm not the first person that sang the song. I'm the second person. Well, I'm sure other people have done it too, but I'm going to be singing it in maybe the third person. I always get mixed up when we're talking about that. But anyway, I'm not the one that's telling the story. It's Arlo Guthrie, but I'm just telling the story for him. So it gets kind of complicated, but anyway, you'll get the gist of it. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Walk right in, it's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad tracks. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Now it all started about, 57, 58 Thanksgivings ago. It was 1967, so you do the math. The more years you go on, the more Thanksgivings ago it was. Anyway, it all started several Thanksgivings ago, and Thanksgiving when my friend and I went up to visit Alice in the restaurant, but Alice doesn't live in the restaurant. She lives in the church nearby the restaurant in the bell tower with her husband Ray and Fasha, the dog. Living in the bell tower like that, they had a lot of room downstairs where the pews used to be in. Having all that room and seeing as how they took out all the pews, they decided that they didn't have to take out their garbage for a long time. Well, we got there and we found the garbage in there, and we decided, hey, it would be a friendly gesture for us to take the garbage down to the city dump. And so that's what we did. We took a half a ton of garbage and put it in the back of a red VW microbus and took shovels and rakes and implements of destruction and headed on down toward the city dump. Well, we got there. There was a big sign and a chain across the dump saying closed on Thanksgiving. We had never heard of a dump closed on Thanksgiving before, and with tears in our eyes, we drove off into the sunset looking for another place to put the garbage. We didn't find one. So we came to the side road, and off to the side of the side road there was another 15-foot cliff, and at the bottom of the cliff there was another pile of garbage, and we decided that one big pile is better than two little piles, and so rather than just bring that one up, we decided to just throw ours down. And that's what we did. Then we drove back to the church and had a Thanksgiving dinner that couldn't be beat, and went to sleep and didn't get up until the next morning when we got a phone call from Officer Obie. He said, "Kid, we found your name on an envelope at the bottom of a half a ton of garbage, and we just wanted to know if you had any information about it." And I said, yes, sir, Officer Obie. I cannot tell a lie. I put that envelope under that garbage. And, well, after speaking to Obie for about 45 minutes on the telephone, finally arrived at the truth of the matter and said that we had to go down and pick up the garbage, and also we had to go down and speak to him at the police officer's station. So we got in the red VW microbus with shovels and rakes and implements of destruction and headed on down toward the police officer's station. Now, friends, there was only one or two things that Obie could have done at the police officer's station, and the first one was that he could have given us a medal for being so brave and honest on the telephone, which wasn't really very likely, and we didn't expect it. The other thing was he could have bawled us out and told us never to be seen driving garbage around the vicinity again, which is kind of what we were expecting. But when we got to the police officer station, there was a third possibility that we hadn't even counted upon, and we were both immediately arrested, handcuffed. I said, "Obie, I don't think I can pick up the garbage with these handcuffs on." He said, "Shut up, kid. Get in the back of the patrol car." Well, that's what we did. We sat in the back of the patrol car and drove to the, quote, scene of the crime, unquote. So I'll tell you about this town of Stockbridge, Massachusetts, where it all happened. They got 3 stop signs, 2 police officers, and 1 police car. But when we got to the scene of the crime, there was 5 police officers, 3 police cars, making the biggest crime of the last 50 years, and everybody wanted to get in the newspaper story about it. They was using up all kinds of cop equipment that they had hanging around the police officer station. They were taking plaster tire track footprints, dog-smelling prints, and they took 27 8x10 color glossy photographs with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one, explaining what each one was to be used as evidence against us. They took pictures of the approach, the getaway in the northwest corner and the southwest corner, and that's not to mention the aerial photography. Well, after the ordeal, we went back to the jail, and Obie said he was going to put us in the cell. Said, "Kid, I'm going to put you in the cell. I want your wallet and your belt." I said, "Obie, I can understand you wanting my wallet so I don't have any money to spend in the cell, but what do you want my belt for?" And he said, "Kid, we don't want any hangings." I said, "Obie, do you think I was going to hang myself for littering?" Well, Obie was making sure. Obie was making sure. He took out the toilet seat so I couldn't hit myself over the head and drown. He took out the toilet paper so I couldn't bend the bars, roll the toilet paper out the window, slide down the roll, and have an escape. Obie was making sure. It was about 4 or 5 hours later that Alice, you remember Alice? This is a song about Alice. Alice came by with a few nasty words to Obie on the side, bailed us out of jail, and went back to the church, had another Thanksgiving dinner that couldn't be beat. We didn't get up until the next morning, and we all had to go to court. I walked in, sat down. Obie came in with 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one, and sat down. The man came in and said, "All rise." We stood up, and Obie stood up with the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures and the circles and arrows and the paragraph on the back of each one. The judge walked in, sat down with a seeing-eye dog, and he sat down. We sat down. Obie looked at the seeing-eye dog, and then at the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with circles and arrows and the paragraph on the back of each one, and he looked at the seeing-eye dog. And then at the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one, and then he began to cry because Obie came to the realization that it was a typical case of American blind justice, and there was nothing he could do about it. And the judge wasn't going to look at the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one, explaining what each one was, to be used as evidence against us. And they were fined $50 and had to pick up the garbage in the snow, but that's not what I came to tell you about. I came to talk about the draft, or conscription. That's another term for it. Many people don't probably remember all this. A lot of people do, some people don't, but a lot of people that do remember get a little old and they probably have to turn up the volume. Anyway, back when they have the draft, that's when the government decides that if they don't have enough people in the army to fight off the enemy or to win something, and it was going to be national security was at stake and things like that, that they could just go ahead and tell people that they had to join the army and force them into it. Here, taking young men, 18 years old, telling them just get in there, put on your boots, and go to war. Grab a gun, go fight and kill people. Maybe even get killed. Possibly get blown up. Stuff like that. There was a lot of bad things going on back then, but it was all about the government. And the government had a lot of control over people and told people what to do and things like that. Matter of fact, at one point, they decided that they didn't like people talking against the war. A lot of it was going on college campuses, just like University of Georgia, and just like any college, Berry College up in Rome, Georgia, and even University of Kentucky, Harvard. But in particular, there was Kent State University up there. One time they were having a just peaceful demonstration. It was young people, didn't like people getting forced into going to war and stuff like that. President Richard Nixon, who was making all sorts of crazy-ass decisions back then, decided that he didn't like that and he wanted to go ahead and force the rule of law, sent in the Army, National Guard, told them, said, go ahead and shoot to kill. Get those bastards quit their protesting because this is important. The government's important and the war is important. We don't want people doing bad things like that. Matter of fact, he had a list of people that he didn't like. Put them on a thing called the blacklist. This guy sounded familiar? Well, half of America just voted in somebody about 10 times worse than this guy. Well, Richard Nixon got impeached. I think there's only one way we're going to be able to get this guy out of there. Things are going to get worse. Everybody thinks they're going to get better. This guy is bad news. Anyway, about those people back at Kent State, it was just kids going to school. They were just making their opinions known, saying they didn't like the war and stuff like that. National Guard came in there and started trying to quiet up and not talk. So they just started shooting. Killed one. Killed students. Shot them. Students. Americans. Innocent Americans were killed on a college campus. And they were shot by the U.S. Army at the direction of the man in charge. Anyway, we're headed that direction again. It's going to get worse before it gets better, just like I said. Just mark my words. I can tell you, I am not responsible. I have nothing to do with it. And I'm going to go down in history as the person that had nothing to do with it. At least history as far as my own personal history and family history and things. And all you people out there that voted this guy in because you thought that he was going to do the right thing and you just ignored everything that he said and you just believed everything you saw on freaking Fox News, you can just blow it out your ass. But anyway, these things are going to get worse before they get better. And you probably turn the song off because you don't want to hear anymore. But anyway, we're going back to the story that Arlo Guthrie wrote. See, they got this building down in New York City. It's called Whitehall Street. It's where you have to go in and you get drafted. You get your name picked that you have to go into the Army. You got to go down there against your will, but you got to do it or else you're going to get arrested. They got that building down there. It was called Whitehall Street, where you walk in, you get injected, inspected, detected, infected, neglected, and selected. I went down there to get my physical examination one day, and I walked in, I sat down, I got good and drunk the night before, so I looked and felt my best when I went in that morning. Because I wanted to look like the all-American kid from New York City. I mean, I wanted to feel like the all-American kid from New York. And I walked in and I sat down, I was hung down, brung down, hung up in all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things. And walked in, I sat down, he gave me a piece of paper, said, "Kid, I'll see the psychiatrist in room 604. I went up there and opened the door and went in the office and said, "Shrink, I want to kill. I mean, I want to kill. Kill. I want to see blood. I want to see blood and gore and guts and veins in my teeth. I want to eat dead, burnt bodies. I mean, kill. kill, kill, and I started jumping up and down, yelling, kill, 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 and he started jumping up and down with me, and we were both jumping up and down in the office there, yelling, kill, kill, and the sergeant came over, and he pinned a medal on me, and he said, I'm taking you down the hall, and he said, you're our boy. Well, I proceeded on down the hall, getting more injections, inspections, detections, neglections, and all kinds of stuff that they was doing to me down there. And I was there for 4 hours, 3-4 hours, I don't know. I was there for a long time and going through all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things, and it was just having a tough time there. And they was just inspecting, injecting every single part of me, and they were leaving no part untouched. Proceeded through, and when I finally came to see the last man, I walked in, I sat down after a big old thing there. I walked up and said, what do you want? He said, kid, we only got one question for you. Have you ever been arrested? I proceeded to tell him the story of the Alice's Restaurant Massacre, and full orchestration and 5-part harmony and stuff like that, and all the phenomena and stuff. I said, stop it right there. I said, kid, you ever go to court? And I proceeded to tell him the story of the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one. And he stopped me right there and he said, kid, I want you to go down there and sit at that bench there. It says Group W. Now, kid! I walked over to the bench there, and there it is, this Group W is where they put you if you may not be moral enough to join the Army after committing your special crime. And there's all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly-looking people on the bench there, and mother rapers, father stabbers, father rapers. Father rapers sitting right there on the bench next to me, and they was mean and nasty and ugly and horrible and crime type guys sitting there on the bench next to me, and the meanest, ugliest, nastiest one, the meanest father raper of them all, he was coming over to me, and he was mean and ugly and nasty and horrible and all kinds of things, and he sat down right next to me and he said, kid, what'd you get? I said, I didn't get nothing. I had to pay $50 and pick up the garbage. He said, no, kid. What were you arrested for, kid? I said, littering. And they all moved away from me on the bench there, and they was giving me the hairy eyeball and all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things, till I said, and creating a nuisance. And they all came back, and they shook my hand, and then we had a great time on the bench talking about crime, mother stab, father raping, all kinds of groovy things. And that was when we was talking about all that stuff on the bench there, and everything was fine, and we were smoking cigarettes and all kinds of things until the sergeant came over, had some paper in his hand, and held it up, and he said, kids, this piece of paper's got 47 words, 37 sentences, 58 words. We want to know details, crime, its consequence, the things you got to say that pertaining to, and from time to know the arrested officer's name and all kinds of things you got to say. And we're talking for 45 minutes. Nobody really understood a word that he said, but we had fun filling out the forms and playing with the pencils on the bench there, and filled out the filled everything out. I filled out the massacre with 4-part harmony and wrote it down there just like it was, and everything was fine. And I put down the pencil and I turned over the piece of paper there, and there on the other side, in the middle of the other side, away from everything else on the other side, in parentheses, capital letters, quotated, I read the following words. Kid, you rehabilitated yourself? I went over to the sergeant and said, Sergeant, you got a lot of damn gall. They asked me if I've rehabilitated myself. I'm sitting here on the bench. I mean, I'm sitting here on the Group W bench because you want to know if I'm moral enough to join the army and burn women, kids' houses, and villages after being a litter bug. He looked at me and he said, "Kid, we don't like your kind. And we're going to send your fingerprints on off to Washington, and friends. Somewhere in Washington, enshrined in some little folder, is a study of black and white of my fingerprints. And the only reason I'm singing you this song now is because you may know someone in a similar situation, or you may know someone that's going to be in a similar situation, or you'll see yourself and someone else and other people and family members and stuff like that in similar situations in weeks, months to come. I'm telling you, there's only maybe one thing you can do is maybe it'll still work as you walk in there to the shrink wherever you are, and you just tell him, you can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant, and then I want you to walk out. You know, if one person, just one person, does it, they're going to think he's sick, and they aren't going to take him. If two people do it in harmony, they're going to think they're really weirdos, and they're not going to take either one of them. If 3 people do it, can you imagine? 3 people walking in, singing a bar, Alice's restaurant, and walking out. They may think it's an organization. Can you imagine 50 people a day? I said 50 people a day walking in, singing a bar, Alice's restaurant, and walking out. And friends, they may think it's a movement. And that's what it is. It's the Alice's Restaurant Anti-Massacre Movement. And all you got to do is join it the next time. Join in and sing it the next time it comes around on the guitar. With feeling. So we're going to have to wait for it to come around here on the guitar. Here it comes. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. I said, walk right in, it's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad tracks. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. Well, I'm not sitting there listening to it, but that was horrible. Because if you want to end war and stuff, and you want to kick that asshole out of Washington, change the world, you're going to have to sing out loud. I've been singing this song now for probably over 20-25 minutes. And that was Lily, her dog. She's singing out this song. Anyway, I've been singing this song now for 20-25 minutes, and I could sing it for another 20-25 minutes, and I'm not really proud or tired. So we're going to wait till it comes around again on the guitar, and we're going to sing it with 4-part harmony. Feeling. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant, accepting Alice. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. I said, walk right in, it's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad tracks. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. Walk right in, it's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad tracks. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant.